For the last 6 months or so, I haven't been too excited about the samples I'm finding at websites like Splice or LoopCloud. And as a result of this dissatisfaction, I've been having a lot of fun sampling from some really obscure places. I wanted to share this big old list of sample sources with you, but before we get into that, I'm sure that there are some keyboard warriors getting amped up out there that we need to get on side.
You should learn to play your own instrument before stealing from others.
If that impression sounds a little bit like what you're typing out right now, just remember these few things. I'm a classically trained percussionist that has spent many years as a touring musician. I just enjoy finding new creative tools that add depth to my electronic music. Finally, you gotta ask yourself where you're drawing these weird lines in the sand, because it has to end somewhere. If you're playing real chords on a MIDI instrument, why not play it on a real piano? And if you're using real life mics to record your real life instrument, why are you using a digital reverb? Let's just enjoy making some weird shit, bro. Now, I'm sure you're already aware that synths like Vital exist absolutely for free that mimic those of Serum and Phase Plant. Some would argue even more powerful. There's also some awesome sound libraries that won't cost you a penny either, like websites like Piano Book and Labs. But if you want to get thinking outside of the box, then I'd suggest visiting Drumbit. This is great if you enjoy drawing beats into a sequencer, but you're not a Logic or FL user. I'm sure there's some Max for Live tools out there for Ableton too. If you want to capture that sound, you just hit record over here. Then that sound is automatically output to your computer. This was super fun. If you watch this channel, you know I'm a big supporter of the Ample Sound guitar collection. I think they sound fab, but they do come at a price point. If you want to try out something a little bit wacky, then I suggest Recursive Arts. This is quite fun because you can choose your stroke speed. You can assign your chords via the QWERTY keyboard and then assign your kind of downstroke and upstroke. I've just chosen the down arrow and up arrow. So if I press Q, I get my C chord here, W, I get my G chord, A minor, F, and so on. It's really fun to just play around with this, even if it's just for chord ideas or as an educational tool. If you're trying to get that close mic sound of an instrument, don't forget that there are a ton of clinics, gear reviews, and isolated recordings on YouTube as well. Oftentimes, musicians that record cover videos will secure their monetization by also uploading tracks of just their instrument without the backing track too, like Cobus here. You don't even have to sample this instrument as is. Chop it up, pitch it down, the world is your oyster. Now what I like to do is play with the envelope of this stem, pitch it down, and then add auto pan and the EQ8 too. It's gonna be a little bit quieter, but sounds like this. Add a kick and snare, and now you've got a lo-fi beat. Now, if I wanted to add some chords to this rhythm, I really don't have to be a concert pianist. And long gone are the days of playing spot the difference between your DAW and the pause screen of a YouTube tutorial. Oftentimes, the chord tutorials will lead with the chord progression or end the episode with that progression. Download that audio and just use this awesome chord to MIDI trick. Here's the chords I got from that video, and all I need to do is right click and come down to convert harmony to new MIDI track. Now it won't always be perfect, but the video will probably state the key of the sample there. So I can come down to scale and fill in the blanks of those chords that are maybe missing a few notes. That allows me to add this to a new instrument, the strum device, which you can find from the Patreon. And with the last chord, I've even changed it a little bit away from that tutorial video. We're left with something like this. Don't forget that Instagram and TikTok also have amazing chord tutorials. This actually brings me to my next category, Foley and effects. There are also amazing Foley artists on Instagram, and you can find terrific ASMR artists on both platforms. But maybe stay away from TikTok as it can get a little bit weird. So here's my Foley sounds just as is. What I do from here is kind of chop them up, and then I add a line delay to make them much wider and a little bit of EQ automation. I'll turn this track up for now so you can hear it, and then I'll turn it down so you can hear it in context as to what it would be like in a real track. If you're into these types of sounds, don't discount Reddit as a resource as well. There are a bunch of artists looking to collaborate or just sharing their work within the communities too. This already gives me a ton of ideas. Sometimes I think about my hobbies, the videos I like to watch, and the creative sounds that can be found in them. I'm a big skateboarding fan, and I know that there's a whole host of videos online titled raw videos that don't have any music or talking in them, and typically have very good camera or mic'd up audio in them as well. So here are my skateboard samples. Not all of them are great, but what I'm going to do is chop out the ones that I like and then use them in a beat later. Now on its own, it's probably not going to sound too great, albeit rhythmical, in this ambient track. But what I can do is add some EQ8 and a vocoder, and maybe utility for a little bit of volume automation to get this. From here, I'll add some shakers, maybe a little bit of rain. If I add a beat to that, it's really going to adjust the kind of groove that you can hear. Now from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater to something even more retro, if you're looking for that nostalgic sound, you could head to sites like KH Insider to find pretty much any retro game soundtrack. This can give you great inspiration for that hot new remix. Fun fact, we actually used this Echo the Dolphin track as a sample in our last beat battle, and there's a new beat battle going down right now. The deadline is June the 3rd, and you can find out more about it over at our Discord. But it doesn't have to be a remix, it could be inspiration for your next cover. And if you do release a cover, you can do so through DistroKid, which have cover licenses sorted for you. They're today's sponsor, and you can get 7% off your first year by using the link in the description below. I don't discount sampling myself to give me that retro sound either. Sometimes drenching my stems in effects and playing them out of crappy speakers to be recorded through my iPhone can be just the source I needed. And if you're into the art of sampling yourself, don't forget that you can find amazing treasures at charity shops and boot sales too. Personally, I like to put life into chaos mode, find a local toy store, and sample the sounds of the bizarre, repetitive playthings. All you need is your iPhone. So this is the sound we started with. I'm pretty sure that this note here is close to C. And I'm just going to add some reverb to that, and then add it to a new sampler instrument. And now we get something like this. Now there are a few toys out there that are just a little bit too expensive to get close to, like the Saturn V rocket for instance. But don't worry, NASA has a huge archive of pretty much every sound they've ever recorded. From comms,
One small step for man,
to launches, to just general ambience. If you're into sound archives, then Google is your friend, but here's a couple that I just really enjoy. You can find terrific old-timey radio station captures if you dive into the sounds at archive.org. They also have a whole bunch of other sound sources. And as a final aside, I'm not sure if you're a David Attenborough fan, but did you know that pretty much every episode of Planet Earth is recorded on mute? Yep, they dubbed the sounds after. So those sounds that have been captured are hosted in a huge archive at bbcrewind.co.uk. This can be a great place to finally find those specific bird calls you've been after, or those whale sounds that you want to throw into that 9-hour ambient mix. I hope this big list of sample sources was helpful, but please don't go without letting me know which alternatives to sampling you use and what techniques you're looking to adopt. As always, there's bonus content at my Patreon, Discord, and my socials. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.